Hi everyone, I'm Michele Catasta. I run AI at Replit. Today I'm going to be telling you about what we do in AI at Replit, specifically about Ghostwriter. For those who are users, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you that I still have to convert, hopefully by the end of the talk, I'm going to be convincing you why it's a good idea to develop your software at Replit. So let's start by what is our North Star as a company. This is a bit of a, tongue-in-cheek, but we want to speak software into existence. What we mean by that is, if you go through this very fast video, sorry for that, we should slow it down. The idea is that a user is explaining in speech what they want to build. We convert that speech into text. That in turn becomes a prompt for Ghostwriter. And in background, the AI is building the application from scratch. And the application is immediately deployed and the user can start to poke around with it. Of course, this is working only for relatively trivial applications today, but you can see the trajectory where we're going. AI can bring us from point A to point B today with this demo that I'm showing you. And in the near future, I would expect that to become way more powerful. And that's our mission as a company. We want to build the shortest path from an idea to a product, something that you can deploy. AI is playing a key role in that. A lot of other technologies at Replit are also playing a key role in speeding up that process. And today we're going to be focusing mostly on why I believe AI is the key enabler to turn this into reality. I don't think I have to convince you why Gen AI is having an incredible impact in the software space. I'm sure plenty of you have been using several different products. I'm sure there are plenty also GitHub Copilot users in the crowd today. Like every other medium, software has become way easier to make. And you can go from idea to software at this point in mere minutes. In the case of the previous demo, it was just a few seconds. It means that software is becoming cheaper and faster to make. And usually when you make a good cheaper in the economy, then the demand just skyrockets. And that's what we expect. At Replit, we want to enable the next billion software developers. And I would expect when that happens that there will be an expansion of what we mean by developer. Developer is not anymore a person who went through a decade of banging the red on the wall, debugging code, going through a computer science degree, and spending several years to learn the craft. Rather, we want everyone who's creative and can express themselves interacting with an AI, interacting with an environment like Replit, and becoming software creators. Now, this is one example that I always love to bring up because it's a success story built on our platform, which happened very recently. So our CEO, Amjad, was attending an hackathon, one of the many hackathons happening in San Francisco. I think at this point, there are probably one per day. And this hackathon had two different tracks, a technical track and a non-technical track. And in the non-technical track, there was a PM, taking parts. And she built an amazing product end-to-end on Replit, heavily leveraging Ghostwriter, our AI, with pretty much no software background whatsoever, but just the fact that the Replit platform allows you to basically run code instantaneously and getting feedback back from compilers and interpreters and whatnot. So she just had a rough idea of what she wanted to do. She used the AI to create as much software as possible. She used our debugger feature to try to go through some of the blockers, and she ended up winning the hackathon. And I've seen her coming to our hackathons later that we hosted Replit, seen her working. It's a completely different way in writing software compared to how my brain is hardwired, for example. I've been doing this for many years of my life, and I don't recognize the way in which people write software today thanks to AI. And I don't find that scary. I found that inspiring. I think that way more people in the future will be writing software thanks to this straight-from AI that we're bringing into our products. So for the few of you who didn't raise their hands and are wondering what actually Replit is, let me take 30 seconds to explain that. We are a platform to build and collaborate on code in pretty much any language you can think of. I would love to highlight the collaborate there. What I mean by that is Rather than having only Git support, which of course we have, you can also have a multiplayer experience in a REPL. So you invite several users in front of the same editor, and similarly to what you experience when you use Google Docs, now you can experience with code. So several of you can be working on the same file. Of course, it can get a bit chaotic, don't get me wrong, but it's a very cool experience, to work with your colleagues together, especially when you try to crank out as fast as possible the first, demo for your product. As of today, I think we just, went past the 24 million users on the platform. What you get when you log in on Replit is your own cloud computer, where you can develop, run, and deploy applications. So no matter if you are on your phone, on a tablet, on a very expensive MacBook Pro, you get always the same power wherever you are in the world. We started 7 years ago, so it's a company that took a lot of time to build, and the reason is there is a lot of technology underlying Replit. Today, I'm just gonna tell you about one aspect of our product, but the truth is to build out the platform, we require quite a lot of effort. Okay, let's start from AI code assistance. I mentioned GitHub Copilot before, so for those of you who experienced that, you know what I'm talking about. I think at this point, for the last couple of years, we have been seeing more and more IDEs supporting code completion. At Replit, we released this feature, I think, sometime in Q3 last year, and we made like an interesting design trade-off. And what I mean by that is a lot of AI products today tend to take quite a bit of time to give a response. Say like the average latency is around 1 second. And at Replit, we decided, okay, why don't we bring the number down, say to 200, 250 milliseconds, in order to basically give an almost interactive experience to the user. When you give back output in 200 milliseconds, it appears to be pretty much instantaneous for a user. And that allows us to explore a completely different product space, not something where the user would be waiting and pondering what the AI is doing, but rather they will be getting the completion immediately, and then they can decide if they want to accept it or throw it away. So let's get a bit technical, given that I have an AI crowd in front of me today. So let me nerd out a bit on LLMs. To make this happen, we train our own bespoke code completion model, which we call Replit LM. For those of you who are deep into this field, the model is open source. It's relatively small. I'm going to give all the details, but you can go on Hugging Face, search for Replit, and you will find basically something that we built literally 2 months ago that is in front of our users today. It's also available to you to build any kind of hacks or products that you want, because the code is released under a commercially permissive license. So you can build literally whatever you want with that. So what is our model? We decided to train something from scratch for several reasons. We are the first LLM for code trained very similarly to how Llama has been trained. I'm quite sure that most of you have heard what Llama is a family of models released by Meta. We just got the Llama 2 release a week ago. So I think it's pretty much on national news at this point for how much people care about it. And we did exactly the same, but for code, which means a relatively small model, but trained on a large amount of data. So we train on more than 500 billion tokens of code of high quality. And immediately we got nearly 40% better performance compared to what was the open source state-of-the-art model back at the time. And I say back at the time because it was a bit more than 2 months ago. And as you know, AI is moving at an insane pace. So of course, today there is something more. We are building something more ourselves, but it's exciting to be part of this field because there is a lot of energy going on. Some of the key details, it's a 2.7V parameters model, so it's relatively small. You can even host it on your MacBook Pro. There is an amazing library called GGML that allows you to do very fast inference on consumer hardware. So if you want to go back home tonight and build your own version of Ghostwriter running in local, you can actually do that. And it's not going to take you more than 1 hour to hack everything together. Reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm going to be happy to show you the ropes on how to make that happen. We train it on 20 languages, which shows by basically figuring out the distribution of what our users cared about. But again, given that the model is open source, you can go out, further train it with other languages that you like, and it's going to become even more powerful. And as I mentioned before, It's a very fast model. So we basically hit the performance metric that we had in mind. Right now, this model is in front of all our users, and we serve it with around 200 milliseconds latency, and we built everything from scratch. From the training to the inference stack, everything has been built by us. I'm gonna spare you the benchmarks, but it does pretty well. Get me later at dinner while we eat pizza, and I can tell you more about the numbers. Let's move to the next big feature that we have been working on in the past few months. So we also built an AI pair programmer. For those of you who follow our blog, that's what we call Ghostwriter Chat. And in principle, it's a similar user experience compared to what you have with ChatGPT, in the sense that you're in front of a text box, you know that there is a chatbot on the other end, and you can have a conversation with the chatbot. In reality, our Ghostwriter Chat is very much focused on development tasks. So rather than bore you with even additional details, let me see if we get lucky today with a demo. There are so many things that can go wrong, including the Wi-Fi. So we're starting from a blank slate. This is my Replit account. We're gonna create a REPL. I'm gonna say I want a Python template. This means that it comes with a lot of dependencies already pre-installed. Let's give it a funny name. Hi everyone. And we create the REPL. Okay. I hope the zoom level is good enough for everyone, including the back row. Okay, this is not the perfect UI right now because I zoomed it quite a lot. So some details will be missing, but I hope you can grasp what I'm trying to build here. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna be opening Ghostwriter. As I said before, Ghostwriter is our pair programmer. And the idea I have in mind today is let's take the URL of the event page, the AI for Developers 4, and we ask Ghostwriter something like, build a parser that fetches this URL and extracts the speaker names. Let's see what we get. Perfect. So, yeah, unfortunately, the lack of screen estate makes it a bit hard for me to show everything. So, Ghostwriter replies, okay, first of all, it understands what is the intent of what we ask. So, Ghostwriter uses the generate code intent. And this allows us to include specific information in the prompt. So we do a lot of prompt engineering under the hood to make sure that we customize your request based on your intent. We understand that we're fetching a page, we need a parser, we got all this code, and you know what? Let's trust the code that we got. So I'm just gonna click insert. I get this in my file without even reading. Just disclaimer, don't try to do this whenever you are in a more important situation. We just click run. And the first thing that you're seeing, and I wanted to show this because it's one of the perks of being on Replit, it's figuring out that we are calling a library that is currently not installed, and it's doing everything automatically. So the moment that I trigger that I want to use Beautiful Soup, which is a very common Python parser, it does the installation under the hood. So let's run it. And of course, something had to go wrong today. Oh, because I don't have any main method. Okay. Let's see. There you go. Well, then can go. Okay. And you saw what was going on there. It was giving me basically auto-completion of the standard patterns of what to do in Python when you don't have a main method. So we made that happen very quickly. Okay, now we run it and something is still wrong. Of course, today the demo gods are not on my side. Let's see. Let's ask Ghostwriter. Something is not working in my code. I was a bit too ambiguous. Okay, let's see what is going on. Get speaker names. Oh, I was actually doing something good here. We are not printing anything whatsoever. Maybe that's the reason why. Okay, perfect. So we made progress. It was parsing the page. It didn't find the right element. So let's see what we're doing here. We're pulling up a div. Of course, whenever we ask Ghostwriter, the model doesn't have access to the content of the page. In general, LLMs are still not that advanced. We are trying to figure out ways to put a patch on this issue, but the model is oblivious of the structure of the data. So what we can do is we go on the page and we say, okay, let me take a look at the source. Maybe I'm gonna spare you this. We see that, it's not a div, it's an ordered list. So maybe we can try to change here. Instead of finding all the divs, we find all the unordered. And then we say, instead of being class speaker information, I think it should be list disk. Is that the case? There you go. And then maybe we do something this easy for speaker. In speaker data, just let's print the speaker here. What? Okay, this we don't need. Bam. All right, this is some progress, maybe not as good as we were hoping for. Let's say we had additional time to do this, and now we can say turn this code into a Flask application. All right, so again, the format is not perfect because of the zooming, but what is going on here is we're generating a diff for you. So we took the initial content in the editor and realized, okay, the user is asking us to take what they already have and then wrap it around a Flask application, okay? So now if you scroll down, you see that there is the original, the left side of the diff, and then there is the transform version. And we can go through that and say, okay, this looks nice. Let me replace the original. And you can basically keep iterating in this way. Now, the next time we run it, I was just hoping to find a run that crashes. This is not the case. Let me see if I can crash it in a very weird way. Why don't we do something like, where are we calling speaker names here? Speaker names is gone. We're not calling it anymore, that's why. So I can do something like this, and then we do the wrong name. Okay, perfect. So this has just crashed. As you see, I put in the main a wrong method name, and now we have a button here, which is our debugger in Ghostwriter. And what we do again is we take all the exception information, we take the code that you've been working on, and then we try to rewrite it for you in a way that is not buggy, okay? And we're also explaining why this is the case. Perfect. So I hope I gave you like a high-level understanding of how Ghostwriter works and the reason why there is a benefit in not just putting the user in front of ChatGPT, but rather having something that is integrated in the IDE, okay? Now, where are we going from here? Let's go quickly back to the slides, and then I would love to take some questions. Maybe I have another couple of minutes, so I just want to tell you what is the future that we have in mind. So from what I just showed you, the next step is we want to build something that I call ADI, or Artificial Developer Intelligence. We have a strong conviction that the kind of workflow that I just showed you can be even enhanced by having a loop where, first of all, the AI device what is the execution plan. So say my ask was much less trivial compared to what we just did. Rather than saying, build a parser on a web page and wrap it around a Flask application, I was asking something more advanced. The first thing you do there is that you ask back to the user additional information about exactly what they want to build. So in a sense, you devise an execution plan. You generate files and code for each block of that execution plan, and then you go ahead and evaluate it. And this is something we can do very easily at Replit, because we have this underlying cloud compute where we can execute the code in background. We collect, if the run is perfect, then we are done. There is nothing else to be done, right? But if the run is not perfect, then we go through this percolate phase where we collect all the errors, all the feedback from the user. We distill this runtime information. We pass it back to the model. So we learn from every run that has been a failure, and until we converge to the right version of the program, okay? So this was my pun to redefine what REPL means. Our company name is Replit because REPL is this read, eval, print loop environment on which plenty of us have learned how to write code in the past. And now we're trying to rethink our Replit from a point of view of AI. If you're curious to know more, I put the link to our AI manifesto, which I think I published not even 2 months ago, and it kind of gives you a roadmap of what we're building long-term at Replit. Perfect. Maybe I can run just the demo, and while we start to think about Q&As, this is a video just to avoid some of the hiccups that we had today. Let me pause it before it goes too far, which it just did. So for example, something that we already have internally and sooner than later we're going to be shipping is this idea where rather than creating a repo and being in front of an empty screen, we put in front of a prompt where you can write high level what you have in mind. And once you do that, first of all, we pick what is the best template for you. Like say you want to build a web application, it doesn't make sense that you start from an empty repo. You should be starting from something that has already Python support and a Postgres running and maybe a choice of Next.js or Flask or whatever you like. So we start from the template that allows you to be productive immediately. And then once we do that, based on your description of the task, we try to generate as much code as possible and we drop it back into your editor. So if you think about it, the demo that I'm showing to you right now, it's a tiny subset of the ADI vision that we have. But that's the reason why we have conviction that we can make it happen, because bits and pieces of that vision are already implemented at Replit. And we have to find eventually a coherent way to stitch all of them together. I would recommend not to shy away from writing code in parallel with an AI that helps you. And I know that there is a lot of stigma out there, and perhaps there is a strong belief that by learning with an AI that is pair programming with you, you're actually not learning how to write code. I would argue that having an AI that guides you and makes mistakes, as it just happened during my demo, doesn't mean necessarily that you're not learning. It's as if you have a friend of yours who might be at your level or even worse, and you're just bouncing off ideas together. There is still quite a lot to learn and figuring out why something is broken. And at the same time, a lot of very expert people, programmers that are much better than me, are all being excited about how much AI is making them more productive. So overall, I have a strong belief that if you're starting right now, embrace the change rather than being shy. Because I think we always change the way in which we learn crafts in life. Engineering 100 years ago was much different than it is today. No one will go and build bridges today as we built the Golden Gate Bridge more than 100 years ago. It's the same with software. It doesn't make sense to stay away from this new wave. Ghostwriter already uses part of your code base. If your code base is too large, we're still trying to figure out exactly how to take all of that into account. It's not a trivial problem in general, but we're already trying to use your most recent files, things that you've been just editing. And by a matter of recency, they should be more relevant to what you're building at that moment. Probably the most important question in large language models, as in where do you take high quality data? For the model that I showed you, we had followed two different strategies. The first one is we use a very famous GitHub dataset, released open source. It's called the Stack. It has been built by a collaboration between Hugging Face and ServiceNow, and it comes from the Big Code project. For those of you who are passionate or want to become passionate about this field, I strongly recommend you to take a look at what that research group is doing, because they release a lot of amazing content and they do a lot of amazing open source releases. And the internal model that we use in production is actually further fine-tuned on Replit data. So then we took data from our users, filtered by quality, of course, making sure that it's code that runs. Maybe there's not code coming from people learning how to write Python from the day before. But it turned out that it made our model much better than we even expected, to be honest. So as of today, Replit not only has a lot of code, but we also have quite a lot of high quality code, surprisingly perhaps, for most. It's not there as a feature for our users yet. It's really rough on the edges, and we like not to release things that break too easily. But we have an basic scaffolding already in place, and that's why when I say eventually we're going to have this ADI in Replit, I'm not thinking about 10 years ahead. I'm not thinking about when AGI is going to happen. I'm thinking about something that for which we have line of sight on the finish line. It's going to take a lot of time in engineering, but as a company, we never shied away from doing that. So eventually it's going to happen. Yeah, so we want to be very thoughtful about how we use our user data. I think we already collected enough horror stories in this industry, not as Replit, on how maybe companies have been using user data in the wrong way or in an unexpected way. So the long story short, we have only used public code that our users have generated on Replit. And in the future, we have to figure out how can we use additional data that our users generate on the platform, such as interactions with the IDE and different versions of the same program. We want to be very transparent about it. So I think AI and legal and ethics are moving in parallel today. I'm good at something. I'm not the best at discussing, the legal aspects or the ethical aspects. But I know that as a company, we want to move in lockstep to make sure that whatever data we bring in, we also make sure that our users are going to be not disappointed by our choice.